Hi, and welcome to Let's Bake and Cook Stuff. Today I'm making pumpkin pie, but I'm making it for my granddaughter's birthday. Emma requested this for her birthday instead of cake. I don't know what to say about that, but anyway, I'm gonna do the crust first. I've got 3 cups of flour in here. I'm just gonna, whip that up with a teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of sugar. Get that mix incorporated first. I kept the butter and the shortening in the freezer while I was getting everything prepared. It's been in there a good 15 minutes. It's frozen pretty solid. I'm pushing pretty hard on it. It's 1.5 sticks of butter, so 3/4 of a cup of butter, and 1/3 of a cup of just vegetable shortening. I'm gonna pulse it until it's gonna become like wet sand. About 10 pulses at about 1 second a piece. Now, what always used to confuse me about crust, and I stayed away from it because they would say stuff like, it needs to look like small peas. It's like, for one thing, it's not green. And another thing, it doesn't look like peas. It looks like wet sand. I don't know where that peas thing came from. But you can see it looks like wet sand. And that's what you're looking for, okay? Okay, now, and crust really is just so simple. It's just, you have to get it just right or it doesn't turn out flaky and delicious, right? So you want it flaky and delicious, you have to follow the steps correctly. Okay, I'm gonna get one more pulse. I saw one big chunk of butter in there. Okay, now I'm just going to add the water until it forms a dough. And this actually has a little hole in it. I'm going to go ahead and leave that in there. And turn it on high and pour it in. Ice water, icy cold. I like a flaky, light and flaky crust. So there you go. And now we'll be able to dump it out. It's still got, see how it has portions that it's made into dough, and then it's got the little sandy part still. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add that. We're going to mix that up together manually. Now this has to go in the fridge for, half an hour or so. And they call that resting. What you're really trying to do is getting the flour to absorb some of that liquid that we put in there. Some of the water and some of the shortening in the butter. Sorry, a little distracted today. But you can see, you can tell that this is going to be a nice flaky crust. You can just tell it's already flaky. So this is going to go, we're going to divide this in half. About half. Put it into and I want to, you don't want to work it too much, but you do want to work it so that it's sticking together. I've made the mistake a couple of times of putting it in there with it still all crumbly like this. And if you do that, when it comes out, it's still going to be crumbly. Okay, so you just want to make sure and get it to where it's sticking together. So it's kind of like a Play-Doh texture. If you've ever played with Play-Doh or clay, you artists out there. All right, and that is not even close to half. It's way bigger. So anyway, we're going to wrap these up and then we'll be back. I used to get so frustrated making crust because it seems so easy and it has just a few ingredients. Why is it so hard? It's just, you have to have the proper technique. You have to mix it up correctly, not over mix it. Everything has to be cold and you have to let it rest. Those are all things that need to be done. And if you can eat it, it's certainly going to be edible. If you don't do all those things, it just won't be as good. That's all. So we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, let's get started with this crust. Now, I've got some flour on my board here on my surface, and I'm going to put some flour on my rolling pin. And then we're going to rotate about every time you run the rolling pin down. You're going to turn it about 1/4 of a turn. That's going to help keep it in a circle. Mine's probably not going to be in a circle, but it's going to be helpful. Shoot, so far it's in a square. As I tell you, crust is my nemesis in the kitchen. It is not my favorite thing to do at all. What I like about this is that it is just those few ingredients, just the butter, the flour, the sugar, the salt, and the shortening, right? So you know every ingredient that's in here. Sometimes when you buy things already made, they have a bunch of preservatives in them and a bunch of extra stuff you don't want. So that's the best, you know, one of the best things about cooking for yourself and making your own pie crust. Use some more flour here. You don't want to let that stick to the counter. That's actually one of the worst things that can happen when you're making crust, is if it sticks to the counter and then you can't get it off and put it in your pie pie plate. Do you make pumpkin pie every Thanksgiving? I make it every Thanksgiving. And then, you know, you can transport it a couple of different ways. This is my favorite way. Roll it loosely on the rolling pin and then lay it into the pie plate. And then again, you don't want to push this in, you want to let it fall in, okay? Or you're going to help it fall in. And then, okay, let me get this this mess cleaned up, and then we're going to do the filling. Okay, hi. We're going to do the filling now, and this is kind of like what they put on the can, but I noticed on the can this year, they put, this is the big 29-ounce can, and it says 1 15-ounce can. So I don't know what's happening here. Like you bought this, but get the recipe off of, I mean, you bought this one, so get the recipe, use this recipe, and then use the smaller can, whatever. I'm doing 2 pies. I actually only showed you the 1 crust because I don't think you need to go through that twice. But we're doing 2, just because this calls for 2. What's kind of cool about this is you can use half and you know, cut these ingredients in half. And then you can use the pumpkin for something else. If you want to make some pumpkin bread or some pumpkin scones or pumpkin biscotti or something. You know, there's pumpkin everything now. So 1 can of pumpkin. Then we need, a teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, and a half a teaspoon of cloves, and about 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, then we have 4 eggs. I'm going to crack them in this bowl first, because you know how I am about shells. I get shells in everything. Okay, so that's 4 eggs. 2 cups of sugar. And it's nice, you're just putting it all in here too. We're not separating, doing a little bit of here, a little bit there. You could beat the eggs separately if you wanted and make it a little lighter, fluffier pie if you wanted, but I like a dense pumpkin pie, so I'm not doing that, but you could do that. I mean, is anything easier than pumpkin pie? And it's so good. Pumpkin is a superfood. I mean, maybe not once you add all the sugar. It's still in there. To me, sweet potato pie and pumpkin pie are a lot alike. Oh, and what I forgot to mention too is I did all the spices separately. The cinnamon, the cloves, and the what else is in there? The cinnamon, the cloves, and the ginger. You can, if you prefer, just go ahead and put like 2, well, it'll be about like 3 to 3.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. You could use that instead. You don't have to, you know, have all separate. If you just want to go out and buy one thing, you can just buy the pumpkin pie spice. And you should have that pumpkin pie spice on hand anyway, because so many things you can make with it, right? I already did a pumpkin spice video with waffles, pumpkin spice waffles, and the bread, the pumpkin spice little bread loaves. And I have lots of different pumpkin pie spice recipes up my sleeve. Okay, notice I was using the spatula and I switched to the whisk so that we could get it all incorporated, make sure there's no lumps in there, make sure that egg gets all in there. No big pocket of egg, scrambled egg in the middle of our pumpkin pie. And this is pretty much like a custard, okay? So we want about half of it in here. If you have 2 of them, you can divide it evenly, but since I only did the 1. Okay. These do take a little while to bake. They take, you're going to do 15 minutes at 425, and then you're going to do 40 to 50 minutes on 350. We're going to lower the temperature after 15 minutes. So it does take a little while. So your oven's going to be on for a little while, but you know, it's fall, so we're okay now, right? Anyway, you can sprinkle this with some cinnamon if you want. You know, feel free to make it your own. Again, that's the greatest thing about cooking your own stuff. I'm going to trim this. I'm going to try and make it pretty. I'm not making you any promises. We made these kind of even. I'm going to just flip it under just a little bit. See how it, you can't probably see that. Just going to put it under like that. Okay. Yeah, see there? Watch that. Now, this is a little bit easier than a double pie crust because you don't have to try and, you know, seal the edges so that the filling doesn't seep out. Okay, so see, and you could leave it like this. See, that's nice and rustic. This to me says this is a homemade pie, right? But you can make it pretty and you put your finger here, your finger in between your finger and your thumb, your forefinger and your thumb, and then you make a pretty little edge. Try to keep it to the top of that rim of your pie plate. If you start pushing it down here, it will sink as it's baking, and your pie crust will be down in your pumpkin mixture. Don't ask how I know that. See, now that's not bad at all. I wouldn't be embarrassed to serve that. Okay, it's going to go in a 425-degree oven for 15 minutes. Then remember to turn the oven down to 350, and then you're going to bake it for another 40 to 50 minutes. You know, and that's of course depending on your oven, depending on your ingredients when they went in, what their temperature was. But we're gonna check it at 40, and if it's not ready, we'll put it in for another few, and we'll go up there. But you still want it a little bit jiggly. But you don't want it, you know, you don't want it to, you know, like this, like it is now. But you want it a little bit jiggly in the middle because it will continue cooking after you're done, after you remove it from the oven. Okay, so we're ready for the first pumpkin pie of my season. I don't know about you. Have you made any pumpkin pie yet? It's getting close to Thanksgiving, so probably a lot of people are already baking and sticking them in the freezer. I don't like to freeze them because I've done it and I'm not mad about doing it. But sometimes the pumpkin pulls away from the crust and it just looks yucky, but it tastes the same. So, you know, you could if you want. I'll see you back here in about an hour. Okay, I wanted to show you the second one. I'm cutting the crust a little bit closer to the rim of the pie pan. And by the way, you want to have scissors that are kitchen scissors. Don't use this and then this is the same one you use to cut the poop out of your cat's butt, right? See, this just has a little bit of a hangover, and then I made these cute little flowers. I just used what was left over from that last pie crust, and I made these cute little flowers just with a tiny, and you can use any shape you want. Okay, and I'm just gonna, remember I told you we have to do the oven for 15 minutes at 425, and then we're lowering it to 350. So I lowered it to 350, and I set my timer for 40 minutes. Okay, you can glue it on if you want. I'm just pressing it, but if you, not glue with glue, but glue with like egg or even just water. Okay, but I'm just pressing it on here. It's gonna grow onto itself. So, but how cute is that? See? All right, I'm gonna stick the other stuff in here, but of course now I can't bake it with that one because it's already turned down to 350. You do it to 425, by the way. I wondered for a long time, why do you do that? It's actually, that's to brown that crust on the bottom. That's to give it a nice, good foundation of baking and brown that crust on the bottom, because you're putting it in, you're putting your custard into a raw pastry shell. So anyway, we'll see you back here in a few minutes when the other pie gets out. I'm kind of excited to try this one. All right, see ya. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, take a look at the finished product. How's that look? Looks pretty perfect. Hope you enjoyed this video. Try the recipe. Let me know how you like it. Take care now.